Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I am your host, Edgar De Jesus. Look at that. Just botched that right there off the nerves, right off the bat, Spider. I haven't been here in a while, Spider.
Yeah, we were 3 words in, man. It's a new record.
Hey, Spider, let me give this another shot. Here I go. Ready? Nobody's listening.
No.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I am your host, Edgar De Jesus. And yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas. And today we are in studio, so we are here with the Cannonball King himself, Mr. Spider.
Oh, solid.
Yeah, nice. You know, today we're spilling the tea. We're talking about new team members that are coming on. We're talking about the additions to the Pool Nation team. We're talking about new sponsors. We're kind of spilling all of the tea. But before I do that, I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, a podcast where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we get started, I want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the SPPA, Blu-ray Excel, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Poolside Tech, and Pool Brain. We want to thank them for their continued support. Mr. Zacharias, what's going on?
Well, I've had some internet trouble, so hopefully I don't have any problems today with that, but not a lot, man. I'm doing really good. Leslie's been following this diet plan, and it's more just like eating healthy and getting the right macros and cutting out processed food. And so I've just been eating whatever she makes. She makes me a portion for me. And it's crazy because man, my mind has been a lot clearer. My stress management's been a lot better. It's amazing what just eating healthy will do for you. So doing really good. I'm fired up for today's episode. This is a really exciting day for us, and I'm not going to spill any tea right now, but we have a lot of exciting things to talk about. And I know, Edgar, you've been chomping at the bit for this one. So here we are. Today's the day.
I tell you, I get all the crap for wanting to spill the tea all the time, and it's these two that keep me in check. They're like, "You're not allowed. You're not allowed. You're not allowed." And I'm like, "Come on!" And I'm like, "Nope, you're not allowed." Hey, before we jump over to John, I do want to give a couple shout outs out over here. Heritage Pool Supply out in Van Nuys is listening from the distributor. Big shout out to all you guys out there. And then we also have, let's see here, Tile Time 1. Good morning, Edgar and John. Ooh, they left Zach out. Boom, drop mic. Hey, Aquastar, what's going on? Lawrence Pools, what's going on? Making Waves, Jeff, what's going on? Mr. Benny, what's going on, brother? Yo, 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 big shout out to you out there. And big shout out to everybody out there. And I think it's Michaela. I won't. I'm bad at botching a name. So, Michaela, tell me if I said that right. If not, just send me a boo and I'll have to work on that. Jeanette, good morning. Big shout out to you out there as well. Mr. JJ Flawless, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. Look, I'm
gonna cut you. I'm gonna cut you off, dude. You're looking good today. Like I don't know if it's the background, right, Doreen?
I think it's the beach.
It's the beach with the shaved head, and you have like this glow.
Yeah, I'm loving the back. I'm gonna be there right now with a pina colada on the beach.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you. Look, it's like a transformation, right? You guys can see me at my best and my worst. And the last couple of weeks, I was definitely at my worst, right? When it, just emotionally, physically, right? It's just been a tiring month, especially. But things are looking up, just like everything else. There's the ups and the downs, but it's just been really hectic and busy. I've talked about in the last few podcasts, telling you about the stuff that we go through. We do it every single year, but it's like we're doing it for the first time every single year, and there's new surprises. But I'm finally through the storm, and things are looking good, and I'm feeling better, and apparently
Maybe that's what it is.
I'm looking better, is what it is.
Maybe
look, mind over matter. I preach that to my children and my wife. So I go, look, it's all in the head, and you can control a lot more than you truly believe you can. But what I want to get at though right now is you were very brave this morning, right now. And I want to commend you.
Me or Doreen?
You.
Me?
You.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Because before we started, look, everybody, when we do our podcast, right,
Mm-hmm.
we have a little pre-podcast banter, okay? And we talk and we strategize and we do a little whatever, and we catch up a little bit. But before I was off camera, I said, hang on real quick. I had to fend for myself this morning because Mama was not here and I needed to go get a drink, right? And usually, she spoils the hell out of me, and she takes really good care of me. And I say, hey, Mama, can I have a drink? She brings me a drink, right? But this time nobody's here because our boy Zeus, yesterday he went and had like a small surgery.
Oh,
and,
no.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was all right. He had a couple masses on his chest and his back,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody, they thought it was benign, but we were just being ultra careful, and we took him there to have him checked out, and they were just fine, but they cut him out, and he was bleeding from the spots a couple times today. He was bleeding from the spots, and so she had to run and take him back to the vet today because he was actively bleeding from there. But anyways, so usually when I say, hey, hang on, I'll be right back, I'm gonna get my drink, you always play a joke and you pretend like you're starting the podcast. And this time when I was there, I was like, I almost ended us all, right? Just kidding. But when I came back, I was like, damn, he's serious. He's really upped his game, because it sounds like we're live right now. So out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, right? And then I'm going to play along. And then when Zach jumped in and started doing the good morning, I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, we're here.
Live.
So either you have there's there's an enormous amount of trust now, right? That we've gained, or I'm that less important.
Okay,
you know
bro.
what I mean? One of those two things, but I'm going to take the former. I'm going to take the first, right? You know what I mean?
Bro, you're giving me too much. You're giving me too much credit.
Am I giving you too much credit?
You're giving me too much credit because it's Spider back here. And by the way, we were running a little bit late, and he started like letting us have it. Like, you guys need to get your crap together. And you said, I'm going to go get a drink. And he banged on the window and he said, we're going live now.
That's
Boom.
Right.
And he threw it in. And I'm like, whoa, but he's like, we need to keep this train on the tracks, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. So here we go. I'm ready to do it. Let's rock and roll. So yes.
Right, Spider? You were keeping us on track?
All the time.
All the time, baby. All the time.
So yeah, no, today's an exciting podcast. We've been kind of talking about it and trying not to spill the tea, but we have a couple big announcements today, and it's just another step forward, or a couple steps forward, towards our goals and our what we envision this to be and become, and we're just one step closer. And at the end of the day, we're just excited that we're going to be able to offer next level education and be able to cater to
There's a couple drops, right?
A couple drops.
Be able to cater. Well, today we can.
Yeah, right.
Look,
but
be able to cater
he must have not opened the script.
I was just he
didn't open the script, did he?
Open the script? I don't even know what we're talking about.
Okay, podcast is over. Everybody knows the tea. We're out.
That we're able to cater to a very, I believe, an unserved, well, actually everybody pretty much, demographic of our pool industry, or people that really need some help where it really counts, and having Doreen with us to be able to lead the way in that, I think is exciting. Anyways,
absolutely. Well, no.
Sorry if I took
No,
if I
no,
spilt a little too much.
Now
but-
that he killed the script of the podcast,
Right.
Doreen, take us out. Outro. Spider, we're out. We're
Yeah.
done. And with today's podcast episode. So, Doreen, how are you?
I'm great, Edgar. How are you guys doing?
We are more than thrilled to have you here today.
I am thrilled to be back to the podcast in just in a different position, right? Now joining the family full time, and I'm all in. I'm excited.
That is awesome. So we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Hey, so by the way, I did botch Michaela's name.
I thought it was Michaela.
Michaela.
I didn't. See
Is
the
it
name.
Michaela? She's already bashing me over here because I just like screwed this up, and she's like, haha, close enough, but no.
Oh.
Mr. Corey Wax, big shout out to you. Mr. Kevin. Kevin says that John's lighting is off today and that you look terrible, John. So just to give you a heads up. He's gone.
He's gone.
He's
He left.
He can't adjust the sun.
Yeah. He can't adjust the sun. I love it. So, all right, everybody, before we get started, let's kind of talk about a couple things here. Nominations open up on June 18th. This last Wednesday, we had the Instagram Live,
Yeah.
went through all the categories. Everybody came up with a new award that they wanted to do.
I saw that.
And that
yeah,
was
the
the-
Rookie of the Year, right?
The Rookie of the Year.
Loved
So excited about that. I think that's a great one. So we decided anybody 2 years or less can qualify for that Rookie of the Year. So we're kind of excited to do that. The other thing is that the Instagram Live with the categories was then, and then the nominations are going to open up on June 18th. And then from there, what's going to happen is on August 20th, we are going to announce the nominees and we'll open up for voting. So we're excited about that, which then we'll talk about a little bit because right
Yeah.
after that, so that's that Wednesday.
Right.
That is going to be a special nomination night
That's
because it's
right.
going to be women only.
Ooh.
And then, like literally women
Power
only.
of the women.
The
I
power of
love
the
it.
women. And none of us can be there. So Zach will have to be watching from the back, from the back
Yeah,
of
we're
what's
kicking you
going
out.
on. I
We
could-
can eat.
Oh, there you go.
could.
We could eat,
You
while,
could eat.
while they do
Well,
that.
we do all the
Yeah.
work, all the heavy
Yeah.
lifting. What's new?
Yeah. Love that. And then from there, August 21st and 22nd is the Women's Summit.
Yeah.
That's going to be happening. Registration is open. We opened it yesterday. We already have 42 women confirmed.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't
in
that
one
crazy?
day. Yeah.
42 women that are already confirmed for the Women's Summit in one day.
We're already getting emails, right? Like, I want my spot. I
Yep.
can't miss out. I've
Yep.
been there ever since it started.
Yep.
I love it. I love the
So,
energy.
And then I went back during because I was looking at kind of how it all started.
Yeah.
And I have a picture. And for some reason, I thought that there was 22 people. But when I did the math, there was 18 women there.
Wow.
And I think I counted me and John and Janie. So, we
Sure.
kind of got to that 22. But it's been amazing to see that journey and that growth. And
yeah.
so we did that 22. And then I think we went to like 80 the next year. And then last year we were at 130 women.
Yeah. Maxed out.
And then this year it's going to probably be the same thing.
yeah.
And so I think that's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the buzz is out there, social media wise, the energy. Every woman I've come in contact with, just incredible talent. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the courses. We'll talk about all the things
Yep.
that we have going on. Anybody that's listening, if you want to attend the Women's Summit, go to poolnation.com. You'll see the Women's Summit on there. You can click, you can register through there. And again, that's going to be August 21st and 22nd. Mr. Flawless, are you there? Did we lose you?
Oh, I'm here. I'm
He's
here.
sunning
You're
on
here?
the beach.
So
I'm here. I'm just catching some rays. You
you're just
know?
catching some rays. So,
Yeah.
so John, we have something else that we want to talk about. And I think since I get to spill one of the teas, well, even though you kind of
kinda
spilled it
dripped, yeah.
already, but I'm going to let you spill the other one so that we could just kind of go in motion. So you could spill all the tea.
Oh, okay. No. Look, this is
Because this is awesome.
Yeah.
this is awesome,
This is
right?
awesome.
And we're
This is
really
exciting.
we're really stoked about this, and we've been working in the background, all of us trying to make this happen. And yesterday we finally put ink to paper and we finalized it. And starting today or yesterday, our new visionary partner we want to announce is Nidec US Motors. I think they are going to be a wonderful addition, to what we're trying to accomplish. And they're going to be bringing a whole heap of education and a different, dynamic, to our conferences, to our boot camps. So we're able to provide a lot more education and kind of get the word out there, because it's a pivotal time, especially now, for the country, when it comes down to variable speed motors and rules and regulations and things that are being implemented across the country. And it's important that we get the right tools and education out there, so that all the pool pros across the country are able to make an informed decision and understand all the options available, so that they can be that provider for their client and be able to service them correctly and give them all the options and understanding of what needs to happen. So Lisa and Jim, we've been talking to them for the last 6-7 months. Kind of started at the international show last year, and we've been in the works figuring out ways we can work together, and we finally made it happen. And look forward to you guys pay attention and keep an eye out on some education and some videos and some trainings and things that we're gonna have in store for you guys, that are gonna be brought to you by us and the Nidec US Motors Company. This is an exciting partnership. We take it very seriously who we partner with. It's not about money, it's about vision, and it's about understanding what our having a common goal, or what the purpose of Pool Nation and what we're trying to accomplish out here. And we see eye to eye 100% with that. And I'm just excited. This is a long time coming, and we look forward to be able to bring more education out. So welcome to welcome to the family, Nidec US Motors. Look forward to seeing you guys and working with you guys throughout the year.
Absolutely. Big, huge shout out to Nidec. We're excited about it. Fits right into exactly what John was saying, right? And we already got plans, right? We got some trainings. We got some stuff up our sleeves. So we're excited to be able to do that and kind of bring them into the Pool Nation family. And it's 100%. It's they have to kind of align with the vision of what
Right.
we have. And and we're excited about it. So welcome to the family.
It's incredible news.
Yeah. All right. So the other news that we are going to talk about today is that Doreen, we are announcing that Doreen has joined the Pool Nation family as a VP of Business and Leadership Development. So Doreen, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Edgar. I'm thrilled to be part of the family officially now, right? It's been a year and a half that I've been dipping my toe, pun intended, right, into the water of Pool Nation. And honestly, I was joking earlier. I think the very first podcast I did back in October 2023 was Influence and Persuasion. And little did I know back then that you guys were going to turn those skills I gave you and start influencing and persuading me to join full time. But I have to say, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm all in, and I'm excited about all the work we've done on the back end to get to this point and share it with the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Little do you know, Doreen, the first moment we met and you did something and we had that podcast and we talked,
Yep.
we had a conversation. We said we have to find a way, right, to be able to have Doreen here. And look, mind over matter. If you will
Yep.
it, you can make it happen. If you believe, you can achieve. And
Yeah.
here we are. So it was all part of the master plan. Everything happens for a reason.
I've always believed that too. And I've always said, I think God was like working his magic way
sure.
back then, kind
100%.
of bringing us together. And I'll just say, I've been having such a blast with you guys. You guys are a fun organization. I really have been emotionally connected to your audiences and to all the leaders and the pool pros out there. So yeah, I'm excited.
yeah, absolutely. So Doreen, obviously, we know who you are, right? You've been on the podcast a time or two and
Right,
stuff like that,
right.
but we always have new listeners. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. From a personal perspective, I'm born and raised in Southern California all my life. We moved to Texas back in 2018 because of work. But, I think when I think about who I am, my family is my world. They're the why behind everything that we do and what I do. I'm blessed to have an identical twin sister, which is kind of unique in itself. And Again, God working in his miraculous ways has given me a best friend for life to walk on this earth. And there's nobody that you can turn to say, hey, I got a problem or a situation, other than a twin who's been through the same journey, who you can turn to and kind of ask for advice. So she lives in Napa, California, so we don't see each other as much, but we talk almost every day. So that's something unique about me. I've been married to my husband, Scott, for 31 years. We just celebrated 38 together. So we met high school and in college. So, just living our dream. I think our family story is a little unique. For those of you who don't know me, we grew our family through adoption with 2 kids. So we have Nathan, who's 19, just finishing up his first year of college. He actually just wrapped up this week at Utah State University. And some of you have met Nathan through the podcast. He's been on 2, and he can't wait to come home for the summer and join back in the fun. So he's like, Mom, how do I get back in there and get on the podcast? So we got to do that for sure. And then Kennedy's 14. She's wrapping up middle school, this clarinet right now in advanced band. So she's in the midst of auditioning for high school band. Not okay with the status quo. She wants to get in a band 1 or 2, which is hard in Texas.
Especially out here. Yeah.
In Texas. It's a whole new ball game. Let me
yeah.
just tell you.
Wow.
Ooh.
And then where she's going, which is Prosper, which has one
Right.
of the best bands in the state,
In the
is even
state.
harder.
Yeah, they went to state, and they actually they ranked 11th in the nation this
Mhm.
last year. So it's incredible. So competitively, fierce. But she's really excited and can't wait to take that next step to high school. Let me see what else is there. I think that overall, just when I think about the adoption and what makes it so unique is we have open adoptions with our family. So both kids know their parents, their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, their cousins. And, we cherish the openness because it really gives them, I think, the full understanding of who they are. And even for us, it just makes us a family that's stronger. So, yeah, so pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, no, some amazing stuff. And we've known Doreen, our
20
family,
years.
20 years. And as a matter of fact, Doreen adopted Nathan, and we adopted Jaden,
Right.
and they're cousins.
They're cousins, first cousins,
So
yeah.
first we were just kind of friends, and now we're
Yeah,
kind of family,
which
just
is,
kind of built into
again,
that.
God's way, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
So,
not planned.
I want to take a couple minutes to talk about a couple things. And I want to reflect, Zach and John, a little bit about our journey with Pool Nation. And, we started about 5 years ago, and, we've done a lot of things. We've done a lot of the Instagram lives. We've done podcasts. We've done awards. We've done boot camps, right? We got the conference. This year we have the $10,000 Pool Pro Challenge. But along the way, there's always been one point of focus for us, right? There's always been one north.
Yeah.
And that's always been what's important for us. And we've always had a vision, and we've always had a plan, and Zach always drives that home, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
Zach, and you hear Zach talk about it all the time. We have to have a plan, right? And if we don't have a plan, we don't know where we're going. And you won't know as a business where you're headed. And, you always hear John talk about the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, and the vision. And, what we do is at the core of what we do. And we've always wanted to help pool pros be financially successful. And it lives within those 3 fundamental principles that we live by, that
Right.
Pool Nation lives by. And the number one is really to help pool pros be financially successful, right? That's our
Right.
north, that's our focus. Everything that we do is in that direction. And from there, obviously, it's to create that safe space in the industry. And then more importantly is obviously anything that we do has to shine a spotlight on this industry. We want people from the outside to look at our industry and go, I want to be in that industry,
Right.
right? And more than anything else, Doreen, you fit into what we're doing like a piece, like a piece of the puzzle that was
Yeah.
just missing. Especially when we talk about, and John talks about that
Safe
10-year
space.
plan.
Yeah. I heard something.
I know, John, were you saying something?
No, I'm just talking out loud, but we talk about our principles and how everything falls into place, right?
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
of course the last one is creating a safe space for for each and every individual when they learn from us, and how Doreen just kind of fits perfectly in that. I've had the pleasure to sit down and listen to multiple classes, had time to conversate with her, and her approach and leadership and her approach in educating and her style is very, very disarming, right?
Yeah.
The hardest part about learning, well, one of the hardest parts about learning, right, is getting over your ego as well, and
Right.
or not feeling attacked, or that you're not good enough, or that you're failing, right? And approaching it in a way, there's you can to teach somebody something, the style and your approach and how you go about it, right? And your personality plays a huge role in whether or not the person you're speaking to, you're trying to help, is able to or willing to accept it and learn from it. So I was just in my mind how it just kind of works perfectly, that Doreen is just the absolute, perfect fit for what we're trying to do, especially covering these topics, when
Yeah.
it comes down to human beings, interactions, financials, planning, goals, stuff like that, the things that we don't so much really want to talk about as individuals, right? Because
Right.
it's personal.
Hmm.
And it's really hard to reach that type of audience effectively. And we all think that Doreen is the perfect fit for that. And she's going to be able to help make it, take us to that next level. That's all.
Well, I was going to say on
Yeah.
just on the other side of that, Zach, I'm sorry. Just, the fact that I feel you guys are the perfect fit for me as well. And the reason I say that is because of those conversations, John, that we've had. It was really relevant and prevalent to me on the first podcast when we just couldn't stop talking about things like influence and persuasion. And even after the podcast shut down, we were all like, one-on-one talking even more about the topic and how it was so needed. And then I saw the need. So I think I fit into you guys fit into my kind of aspirations as well, just as much as I fit into yours. Sorry, Zach. I think you were going to interject there real quick.
No, I was just gonna say, you were talking about vision, and this Doreen fits into the core of all three things that we
Yeah.
hammer on. And we do the Instagram lives, the podcast, the awards, the boot camps, the conference, the $10,000 Pool Pro Challenge. And those all work because they make sense and they tie into our big vision. And visions aren't achieved by just throwing things at the wall and
Mhm.
praying that it sticks. These things have to have purpose and intention, and make sense to driving that overall vision. And this ties into our three foundational principles, like Edgar said: helping pool pros be financially successful,
Yep.
creating a safe space for the industry, shining a spotlight on our industry. And having Doreen on board is the next intentional move on our roadmap, and she'll supercharge the leadership and business track, so we could continue to work on improving instead of plateauing. And we're going to get more into that, because the second that we stop improving, the plan falls apart.
Yeah, and we've talked about this also on the podcast and between us, and John talks about it all the time, and that whole strength based.
Right.
And I'll let him kind of talk about that. But
Yeah.
as businesses, I've always said that the business leader can only deliver up to so much, right?
Right.
And then they plateau, right?
Right.
It's just nature.
Yes.
And so we could do a lot of education, and we try to do a lot of education to help the pool pros and stuff like that. But when we sit there and we look, we're like, we have to do what we preach, right? And we have to go out and find that other resource that's really going to be able to help us go to that next level.
Right.
And we truly believe with your skill set that you're really going to skyrocket that 10-year plan that we have to be able to give all those tools to the pool pros.
Yeah, and I want to meet your expectations. Obviously, I'm going to exceed your expectations, right? That's my goal. So I wouldn't have said yes if I didn't think I can, at any point in part, bring some value to the organization. So I'm excited about the challenge. I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm excited to get into another space of industry too, because all industries I've supported have that same need, right? To develop their people, to drive business results, to get the outcomes they want. What I like about Pool Nation, what I love about Pool Nation is the personal investment to drive personal businesses, not just large organizations, that too, but the solo entrepreneur and the desire to want to learn. You can definitely bring training to the learner, but if the learner's not willing to, learn or be vulnerable or be courageous to do something new and different, then it's just a check mark next to their name that they attended a class. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, that is not my objective. You'll soon learn.
Look, tag on to what Zach said and Edgar, and we definitely, one thing we say is, look, don't say you're going to do something unless you're going to do it, right? All in or all out, go big or go home, practice what you preach. Too many times in life, you hear this, you hear that, you do this, but then you see them doing other things in the, opposed to, the things that they preach, right? You can judge a character of a man by what they do when nobody's looking, right? And when it comes down to business, I've always preached this, and I've always believed in this from my days of my past lives to today. Is that in order to thrive in anything that you do, especially when you have employees, right? And only when you have really employees, or especially when you have employees, is you need to focus on strengths instead of hammering on weaknesses. You need to identify what your weaknesses are, so you understand them, right? And you can limit the pitfalls and trips that arise because of them. But if you take somebody that, either yourself or an employee, and you force them to do things that they hate to do, or get great at something that they hate to do, chances are they're not going to be very happy at it, right? But if you find somebody who loves to do something or is great at something, they tend to enjoy doing it, and you put them in a position to where they can do what they enjoy to do, or what they're great at what they're doing, then you start to see productivity and morale start to skyrocket. So a strength-based organization is understanding where your weaknesses are, or where, like Zach said, where you can where we plateau, right? You can be a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Right.
That's not our goal here. We have a pretty good understanding, through experience and being self-taught. We're taking courses in the past. When it comes down to understanding leadership and business and HR, but we are by no means professionals or pros at it. And we have never for 1 second pretended to be. And we understand where our limits are. And in order to be able to provide the absolute best education, we need to find the best, somebody who lives and breathes this stuff and has literally built a career over it. And that is what Doreen is. So I am happy, right? Look, I might not be the greatest when it comes down to HR, right? I've always been told,
he's the HR nightmare.
Yeah, I am the HR nightmare.
That's why he won't let us hire an HR person.
So it's like, these are the types of things where, we value the importance of them, and we know any misinformation can be detrimental. Right.
Yeah.
And we understand what our limits are. And like we've done everything we've done in the past, is that we will find somebody who is an expert in that field, so that they can give you that education. They can guide you and help you in what you're asking for. And that's what we do. I mean, we practice what we preach. And look, this might be, and I just want to, I want to put it out there so people can understand, right? This is, this is who we are, and this is what we do. And, every penny we get, we throw it right back into into what we're trying to accomplish here.
Amazing.
That's the focus.
This is the only way you can do it, right? So this is us, and this is us turning it up and taking it to another level. Adding Doreen to the Pool Nation family is a one giant leap for us, and I am so very excited in what's in store, and what she's going to be able to do, because she's going to just be able to take it across the finish line, because us three, and we can try our best, right? But the quality and time is obviously a factor too.
There's a skill set to everything, right?
100%.
There's a skill set. There's a skill set to everything, and And Zach looked at this, and I know Zach does it all the time, as he kind of goes in and he observes the education and learning and the business
It's a sponge.
and he
amazing.
always comes and he always talks about that. Huh, Zach?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna get into that. There's a science behind all of
There
this.
There
is.
is. And it's interesting. So many people come up to me and think, wow, this was way harder than I thought. I thought you just knew everything. You just sat up there and talked. And I'm like, there's a process of adult learning methodologies that go into play. I think the first 2 years that I was in training and development, it was all about me. Like, do I look like the part? Do I play the part? Do I know the part? About 2 years in was when I realized it had nothing to do with me and all about them, all about the learner. Are they learning? Are they taking something away? If they're not, then I got to start all over, right? And my work isn't done. So the last 18 years has really been crafting around what are the needs of the organization, the needs of the people, needs of the learner.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's interesting. Sorry, Zach, I'm going to let you jump in here. But it's interesting because there's so many different ways that you learn.
Yes.
And you would think that one of them is if I get in front and I give a presentation, and that's probably the least effective
It's the
out
least
of all the
effective, 'cause-
methodologies. And
Yeah.
and that's what we naturally go to is,
Right.
I'll just kind of go up and do a presentation, and that's
Fail.
actually the worst.
Because you're usually often it's like, well, I'm going to give you a stretch assignment. You should present so you can learn. And that's not how we learn. Again, going back to your foundational principle of safety, right? It's all about psychological safety and creating a safe space to get people prepared to shine and be confident, right? And that's what training and development can do is build confidence.
We just
He forgot what
My
he was
team
going to
was-
say now. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
no. My team, some of my team was up in Dallas, and I was joking with them, and I'm like, she's playing games with you, and
I know.
she's
I make you do stuff.
puppeting you guys, and you don't even see the magic that's going on here. And so that takes me to I want to dive into this a little bit because I want our listeners to really get a full picture of like how awesome this is. And we got to learn a bit about you personally, but you have a wealth of knowledge in these things. You've been doing this a long
Yeah.
time. I loved sitting in class and just watching you work. And like you said, I'm a sponge. I'm absorbing it all and I'm trying to take some of it back and implement it. Could you talk a bit about your background and how you got to this point of, learning and being able to master these skills?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I spent about 30, 35 years now. I say 30, but it's really 35. I'm kind of aging myself in, operations with Hilton Hotels, where I worked in the hospitality business at first and, took on roles and responsibilities of supervisor, manager, obviously up until senior leadership of hotels. And it was really interesting. I think that even though I was an operations manager, I've always had it within me to want to develop people. I remember being a supervisor at the front desk, and I was always given the responsibility to, train the new person coming in for job skills training. And I don't know about most of the people here on this podcast, but I was thrown into the world of hospitality by sink or swim philosophy, right? You like throw them out there, see if they can actually like do the job. If they survive, like give them more to do, right? And so I always felt this necessary like kind of need to like support people when they came in. Don't throw them in without a life vest or a life jacket. And so I started training people coming in, creating checklists, doing everything I can to make them feel they were prepared for the first guest to check in. So I think that's kind of where my educational role started, believe it or not, was as an operations supervisor. And I've worked in large organizations, both in hospitality and recently the last 12 years in the retail industry. Again, I was about 17 years working in operations, everywhere from front office operations, director of revenue management, running a call center for a couple years. I had no business running a call center, never trained how to run a call center. But I think it goes back to, who you are matters. The characteristics, the character you have, just be authentically who you are. I don't know everything about call centers, so let me go learn. And I took that responsibility on pretty seriously. And then I worked in a large convention hotel by Disneyland, which was fun with kids, right? I worked next door to Mickey. And in that role, I was responsible not just for, running an operation, but also for the quality assurance of the hotel and training and development. And so I took that on seriously for a few years as a second job. And it was actually Leanne Nix, or De Jesus, Edgar's wife, who worked in HR at the time, and said, wouldn't it be great to bring somebody into the training room to train people not only for compliance, but really for real world perspectives. You're passionate about driving results, you know how to drive results in all aspects of the hotel. Wouldn't it be great to bring someone like you into the organization as an HR partner? And I have to say, I said no at first because I could not imagine myself outside of the comfort zone, right? Everything I knew, I was the go-to person. And now you want me to walk into a space where I'm vulnerable and I have no knowledge of training and development. And by the way, you have to speak in front of people. Who wants to do that for a living? And I was at the budget. I'll be honest. I was at, responsible for budgets. And the first place we always cut was training. And I thought, would this be a short-term kind of responsibility? But I took a leap of faith, because I knew that if I wasn't part of the solution, I was only part of the problem. And I recognized there was a problem that we were just training for a check mark. We were getting nowhere in the results we wanted. And so I took a leap of faith 20 years ago into that role. And I really learned quickly that there's a direct correlation to how we work and a direct correlation to the results you're going to achieve. So if we're working ineffectively, we're going to get poor results. If we're working effectively, we're going to get the results we want. So I knew I can do that for myself, but the challenge in that was, how do I inspire, motivate, help others to see that they have the power within themselves to be part of that solution? So for 20 years now, I have supported large organizations. I took a supply chain, hotels, customer call centers for a while, sometimes both. I now work at the corporate office, or have worked at the corporate office for JCPenney, where I think, every job I've ever held has prepared me for this position today. And what I mean by that is, I've learned at JCPenney, how to be agile, innovative, do things different than you did 5 or 6 years ago before the pandemic. How do we reach large audiences in virtual training versus, workshops and academies and all that? And how do you save money and bring right time training to people? So I've been doing that now, and that really inspired me to start my own consulting business. So that was my plan before Edgar influenced me, to look a different direction. And that consulting business is called Empower You to Thrive. And the reason I named it Empower You to Thrive is because I feel that people are waiting to receive knowledge, skills, capabilities, understand a strategy so that they can, really be empowered with the information they need to feel confidence, to be able to perform the job that they didn't even realize they needed to perform holistically for the entire part of their business, not just how to do one thing right, but how to do multiple things, really, really well. And so I am really passionate. I think you'll learn. I don't like to train just to train. I get calls all the time, hey, I want to do fierce conversations training. And I ask the question, why? And people often say, well, my manager took it. He thought it'd be really fun for us to take. And that's an immediate no. I'll always ask the question, what are you trying to solve for? What is the business situation you have? And how can I help you support that problem? And let's fix that problem. So I'll give you an option of 3 to 4 things that might fit well. I think, Edgar, you've been through this with me a few times, right? He comes to me, he's like, oh, we need this class at the boot camp. And I'm like, okay, what are you trying to solve for? And it's never quite right, the same thing you thought.
It's never what I think. I'm like, I think we need this, and yeah, I'm pretty certain we need this. And
right.
you go into that little Mary Poppins bag is what we call it, and,
right.
and you're like, no, what are we trying to solve? And I'm like, no, this class will do it. And she's like, no, we need a little bit of this sprinkled with a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
And this is how we deliver it effectively, right? So I'm very passionate about creating what I call transformational learning experiences. Transformational learning experiences. And what I mean by that is really, how do you make leadership and even business training practical? How do you make it real time, right now, when they need it? We're not going to, wait 6 months because we can't. Just to do a 3-day program, what can we do in a 2-hour virtual? And how do we build upon that? How is it powerfully engaging? And I think, Zach, you've seen this firsthand, right? Like, you can't sit in my classroom in the back, with your head down, right? Like, I'm going to catch you, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to engage you some way, whether it be an activity or a conversation. And I think that's when the real magic
Yeah.
happens.
Nobody's sleeping.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you step back and literally ask a thought-provoking question that's planful, it's been planned, and you just allow silence for people to take in that question. And then you find a way for them to engage, whether it be just talking to a partner next to them or through an activity. You guys have seen it in the boot camps and in the conventions, right? That dialogue, that conversation that happens is just magic. And so that's what I wait for. I wait for the light bulb moments. Zach, your team is on fire every time they're in my class. And so sometimes I'm all about not engaging them because I know they're going to motivate themselves. How do I engage the person in the back of the room or who's silent in the way that feels safe for them? And
Right.
so that's a little bit about my background. Here's what I've learned. No industry goes without this kind of thought process that people really have the same needs, right? To lead with confidence or to make decisions that are right for their business and to feel that they're part of something greater and more valuable in them than themselves. How can we inspire people through education to do that?
I'm gonna jump in here real quick. I like the longer that I'm in this, in kind of the transformation or the phases you go through in business, it's like you start and you're on the it, and then you're learning how to run a business, which is a never-ending learning journey. But the longer I'm in this, the more I realize, like this, and John talks about all the time, it's all about people. And I love what you're saying about like empowering and like I'm on this personal journey to like how can I unlock potential? Because I think a
Yeah.
lot of times like if we're not learning these skills, which a lot of them are skills that can be learned, it's like we have people that come in and we have turnover and they leave and it's like why does this keep happening? And it's like, well, we need to, like you said, find the solution and not just live in the problem.
Yeah.
And how do we unlock these people? How do we empower them? Like, how do we get them to buy in and things like that? And so this is just so exciting to me. And I've personally, I've got whiteboards going. I've got people reading slides. I got round of applauses for the people writing on the whiteboard. And so, I mean, I think this is truly amazing. And I think this has a huge opportunity for our industry because if, as an industry, we can learn to unlock people and their potential a lot more and a lot more effectively, like we will grow tremendously as an industry. I want to see the day where it's like the career choice is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's like, I want to be a pool guy or pool gal or have a pool business.
Yeah. I also want to be I want to be the learner as well. I want to get myself in there and learn about your industry so that I can also make those connections in the classroom. So just so you know, like I feel that I haven't stopped learning. I continue to learn. In fact, Edgar, the first time you asked me to do a podcast, I was like, absolutely not. I don't want to be in front of a camera. I don't want to do that. I've grown exponentially because of being involved with Pool Nation as well. I'm really feeling like I've learned so much about the industry, but I have way more to go that I can't wait to be a student of the business and the industry itself.
That must be like a De Jesus thing. Like, oh, you're comfortable over here?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna move you over here.
You're familiar with that? Yeah. I
I'm
think him and his
familiar.
wife, but imagine him and his wife together. There's no hope, right? You have no chance.
I'm getting a bad rap over here, for God's sakes.
It's all good. It's all good.
Which, by the way, Doreen, you're going to start to get in front of videos and stuff like that.
I
So
know.
just to give you a heads
I've
up.
done
and
it. I
Instagram
know.
lives and
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm all good. I'm over that hump.
So, Doreen, what other than Edgar coercing you, what inspired you to get involved with us?
Honestly, I'm going to say the heart and the vision behind Pool Nation's passion in delivering education first. I think the first podcast, I said, you're speaking my love language. As I listened to each of you talk about what I'm just as passionate about. So that was number one. That was first. Okay, I can definitely help and support that effort. What really drove it home for me is all the interactions I've had at the boot camps, the conventions. I mean, the learners that come in, I've seen something special. And what I mean by that is there's this thirst to learn, this thirst for knowledge. After every session, beyond the breaks, the the lunches, and even afterwards, people are standing there, and I'm looking at them just exhausted from 5 training classes they took in a day, right? And I'm apologizing, like, I know it's a lot, but I promise you, just take a little bit and go apply it, and you'll come back and you'll know that you have application behind it. And they all come up to me afterwards. I mean, a line of people and say, okay, so you said that maybe next year we're going to do 4 classes instead of 5. Can we just keep doing 5? In fact, can we do 3 days worth of training? And I've had people come to me and say, hey, do you do this on the, can I come do a class outside of Pool Nation? And I've always had to say I can't, right? Because I have a full-time commitment, job, family, and I'm happy to help. But I just felt terrible that I couldn't be part of the real solution. And so what's really motivated and inspired me is the need. I see the gap, I recognize it, and I know that I can be part of closing that gap, and I want to be part of closing that gap. So that's really what's inspired me the most. I'm trying to think about, I think when I was thinking about why, I feel that this is a movement. It's not just a training that you need. It's a movement of people who show up on weekends, invest in their own development. Like, who does that, right? Usually at a corporation, I find people who are told you have to go to this training class, and then I lock them in a room like prisoners. And I try to make them, vacationers and have fun. And, I became the tour guide. But what I really am always looking for is, how do I tap into the explorer in the room? And then I try to tap everybody's explorative kind of like personality in that class. What can you take away? Because I value people's time. And so I think what I saw with Pool Nation's training and development is the need, number 1. Number 2, the desire to learn. And I often say, if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you show up and you're determined to learn, no one can stop you. And so I think that I can help those who want to learn be better and build their businesses and be more successful. And so that's really where I want to not just train, I want to transform lives. And when you transform lives, you transform businesses. And when you transform businesses, the change occurs. Yeah. It's a ripple effect.
And, it's funny, Zach, John, and I talk about this all the time. We do this, right? We do Pool Nation, and it's a business now. And yeah. We've got our vision, our 10-year, and we're doing all that. And, we could do things. We could do the awards. We could do the championships. We could do the boot camps. We could do, all that. There's one thing that continues to give us the fuel to keep going forward.
Yeah.
And that's when you get a text or you get an email or you get a conversation. We've had people cry in front of us that
right.
we've sparked enough to be able to transform and do their business for their kids, for their families, and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah.
and it's funny because we've been doing this for 5 years and we hear it often, but it never gets old. And every time
right.
somebody posts about it or does it, we're copying the message and sending it to each other. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's like when you can help somebody and you see that it fundamentally changes their life,
yeah.
there's no bigger reward
right.
than being able to do that. I do want to say something. So normally we do two breaks, but I don't want to do that because obviously we're kind of deep into this podcast. And I think the vision of what we want people to understand is the vision, Zach, John, about what we want to do. And so
yeah.
when we started our conversations and we all started to get together, it was, let's sit down, let's figure out what we have put together. Let's figure out what it is that Doreen can do to elevate everything that we're doing. And so I want to share that so people understand that this is not just, we brought somebody on and they're just going to kind of come and do training things,
right.
but it was more of sitting down and, more importantly, looking at the different phases that pool pros go through and how do we support every single one of those phases. And,
yeah.
and we hadn't figured that out. We figured out the 4 phases. We figured out, how we needed to kind of help people, but with your bag of magic tricks, we didn't have that to be able to kind of bring that in together. And as soon as we sat down with you and we said, here's where we're at, here's where we're going. And you're like, okay, we need this. And we need to bring this into the loop, and this is how we need to structure this. It was like the sound in the background, like the
right.
aha,
yeah.
moment. So what I want to do is I want to talk really quick about 2 things that we've put together.
Okay.
So one is we've put together a path to growth,
right?
Right.
Yes.
And then from that path to growth, then we developed a roadmap.
Yes.
And so what I want to do is I just kind of want to share with everybody so everybody understands what that journey looks like. So for everybody that's listening, obviously you'll be able to listen to it on the podcast. If you want to go back, what Spider is going to do is he's going to share some of the screens so we could talk to them a little bit. And we won't try to go too deep so we
Right.
don't lose just the people that are only listening. But
Right.
let's talk really quick about that path to growth for all these service pros that we're trying to support.
Absolutely. I know, like when you say there's a skill involved in what we do in education, there absolutely is. In order to really hit the target you're trying to strive for, you need to have a really good, comprehensive, what I call learning strategy. So we're not going to go into the comprehensive part right now. What we want to do is just share 2 slides. One of them is called the Path to Growth. And the Path to Growth you're seeing here is built around the 4 key phases of business growth. What we've done is create a roadmap that supports each of those 4 phases that Pool Nation has identified and really connected the right competencies and skills that are needed for each phase. So when you're looking at this path to growth here on the screen, I know some of you are just listening, so I'm going to explain it, what the visual is, just to give you kind of a picture. But what I want to make sure we note is that when you think about the 4 phases, there are, what I call leading self bucket, right? The leading self is anyone who's got 40 pools, or average around approximately, right? They're really focused on personal productivity, customer service excellence, business fundamentals. So when you think about that particular phase, you look and see a series of competencies and what we call leadership skills, or skill requirements. Now, some people may be wondering what I mean by competencies. And what I mean by that is really your capabilities. Think about the behaviors, right? I think that's when you think about competencies, you're thinking about behaviors, how we actually work. And, there's multiple competencies, multiple skill requirements you need at that level of leading self. You have to manage yourself from a time management perspective, your productivity. It's all about customer relationship management. I think, Edgar, you're a perfect example of that. When you started your pool business and it blew up so fast, it had a lot to do with the fact that you had that hospitality customer service mindset. So what does that look like? How do we do that effectively? Service excellence or quality control, business, financial basics, marketing and kind of reputation building. What does your brand look like? What is your personal brand? We have to navigate through change, right? We all know that from the pandemic. So think about how adaptable or agile you had to be, or if it wasn't that you could be adaptable, how resilient did you have to build some resilience too? So those are just some of the things you would find in the first phase, skills that you would need. And then we looked at the next phase. What would the next phase look like from a competency or skill requirement around 80 to 90 pools on average? Now, what I call this is the aspiring leader, right, Edgar? This is the person who may not necessarily want to, hire a team, but they're aspiring to be more. They want to do more. They want to get better. They want to be excellent at their business. And so they're focused really on operational efficiencies, which you guys talk about all the time.
Right.
They're the ones that really want to understand, how do I scale my services? How do I, manage that time? I think management at this point is a lot different.
Critical. It's that balancing act. You're doing everything.
Yeah, you're doing everything. So
Yeah.
how do I, can I delegate somewhere, or, do I need to grow that one employee that can help me be successful? So that's a whole other level of skill set when you think about, task prioritization, right? Like, how do I take all the work that I have as a solo entrepreneur, and how do I prioritize what I should focus on and what I shouldn't focus on? A lot of people at this stage get stuck in the minutia, right? And so it's learning how to get rid of that minutia and really working smarter, not harder. And that's hard to do.
It really is, especially at this stage, at this phase.
It is. And so we introduced at this phase the basic principles of leadership. And those principles for me as a leader of people have been foundationally everything I rely on, right? I'm going to have a difficult conversation. Well, let me focus on the situation, issue, behavior, not the person, because what you say matters. And that's a skill set in itself. And this is where you're also working on customer retention, how to be better communicators. I think about the financial discipline that goes into this level is much different. So I think when you look at leading self and transitioning to aspiring leader, you need to know that you're climbing the ladder of skills, right? You have to be able to be really good at the leading self. And then you have to start taking on more responsibility, more skill sets to get better. And so you have to be able to take on more and gain proficiency in some and learn how to do better in others. And that'll look different for everybody, right? You're gonna have somebody who's naturally skilled at prioritizing tasks, but maybe not on the financial side. Or you're gonna have somebody who is really good at really problem solving in the moment, but they're not really great at the critical thinking skills, right? Stepping back, taking
Looking at the bigger
perspectives,
picture. Yeah.
picture, asking for different perspectives because they think I have to know everything. You don't. That's what strengths-based leadership really is. So that is the second path to growth. I'm going to move into the third right now, but before I do, are there any questions or comments from you?
No, this is perfect. And again, it just kind of falls into the phases that we talk about, right? We
Right.
talk about that foundational phase, and it's
Yeah.
just, and this is the part that I loved as you brought this together. It was like, here's the different phases, and here's the different things and how they should be strong at each one, and each one of them all going all the way through. They're so
Right.
different.
They're absolutely different.
Yeah.
And that takes you then now like to an even greater skill set required, right? At the, leading teams, what we say, the 130 to, plus pools or so. Now you have someone who's hired their first hire or who's managing a team of people. And when you think about hiring skills, interviewing skills, coaching skills, it's no longer about you.
Yeah.
It is about how do I arm my team, my one person I have underneath me with all the people management skills you need to have to really take that talent life cycle and let it churn and burn for you, not actually lose people, right? Or have higher retention or high turnover. So this is where you need to get good at truly empowering people. And I think people think, well, if I just tell someone they're empowered, go do it. That's not how it works. You gotta set them up for success to truly be fully empowered and take ownership and make the right calls when you're not around, right? And that takes some organizational savvy. You got that business and financial, aspect that's even greater and bigger and
It
broader
keeps getting bigger and
and
bigger.
heavier.
Mhm.
It's heavier
Yeah.
because now there's a lot more at stake.
Yeah.
Right. I think about, just things like how do I retain people? You do that through development. And listen, I'm one person, so I can't develop everybody in the industry. So how do I arm, larger corporations with certification classes around train the trainer or around, being able to make better decisions or root cause analysis, problem solving? Like all of those skills come into play here under leading teams and more, believe it or not, more. And then finally, I think, for those of you who are large corporations, you're leading the empire, 250, like thousands of pools, right? That's just a whole other, skill set in itself. And so this is where you focus on, executive leadership. And that's something that I've been really skilled at is how do I lead, really help the companies I've had in the past, really have a pipeline for leadership for their executives. How do you grow the next future leader of the pool business that you have? Or how do I take a team and make them a team of teams, a team of leaders who really drive results within every facet of the organization, right? And then in order to do that, you want to have market expansion. So how do we accomplish some of those goals? So here is where you focus on executive level leadership development, what I call top talent programs. You take those high potential, high performing people you don't want to lose to some other competitor, and how do you grow and develop them to their next level,
Yeah.
which is it's hard.
And at this stage, it's completely different, right? Because at
Yeah.
this stage, you're not. We talk about it all the time. You can't be working in the business. You have to be working on the
On the
business.
business.
You're
Right.
leading people. You're doing all that. So, you look at all these competencies, starting from the leading self, from the foundational
Right.
to now, if you are going to scale your business. Look, there's only so much you could do.
Right.
Now your job is to kind of take that back seat and manage those people. And the skill set that you have to have at this stage is so different.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to be able to find somebody that has been able to master all of those, right? And just
Right.
kind of learned on their own. There's a learning path that you have to do
Yeah.
and education that you have to do in order to be able to get good at those things, to be able to reach that.
Yeah. At this stage, we're really talking also about team dynamics and we're talking about strength finders, like how do I assess my team and identify their natural born strengths so I can leverage those. It's much easier to leverage someone's strengths than it is to make someone to change, right? People just don't like to change. And so we get to heavy certifications here that, it takes years and years to get. Practice at certifications. There's this one certification. I'm actually getting recertified in a brand new assessment around called Drive. It's all about it was exactly what John was talking about. How do you take the people who have values and motivators and use those motivators so that they're thriving? And how do you recognize what's draining them, right? Because every day they come into work and they're drained because they're doing a job that feels like they're, writing with the opposite hand that's natural for them. And let's be aware of that. And let's give them also tools. And how do I identify that in me? And what do I do to not have that task or part of the job so draining on me? And who can I tap into in my team that just loves that, right? I mean, I think about Leanne. I want to be on the fun side of HR. Leanne loves all of HR, right? And so I often tap into her for the other side, right? And she taps into me for this side. And that's leveraging each other's strengths.
Yeah. So let's talk about, obviously we talked about the path to growth, right? And,
Yeah.
and those are in those 4 areas that we recognize that most pool pros, their journeys go in, right?
Right.
We were able to identify that and kind of figure out what those were.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the roadmap that they might need to follow during that journey. And by the way, everybody listening, everything that we're doing with Pool Nation, all of our education, all the things, it really lives off of this, right?
Yes.
Like this is the roadmap that we've created. This is the path that we've created. And when we talk about what's coming next, I'm really excited about it because it all drives off of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'll just say as I get into this roadmap real quick that when I was with a company, we were training so many amazing programs, but there wasn't a thoughtful, methodical strategy behind it. And about 5 years ago, 4 years, what was it? 5 years ago with the pandemic, right?
Right.
What we did in training and development with prior to pre-pandemic, just like the pool business, it changed dramatically for us. We can no longer, afford to bring, 100 people into the home office and fly people and pay for people to come in for a 5-day academy. We used to bring people into onboarding and, we knew we'd never get them back. And so we'd lock them in a room for 3 days and we would train them on everything you could possibly imagine they might need to have at some point in time. And guys, there's truly an understanding of, learning overload, right? With too much information,
Your brain just shuts off.
your brain shuts off and you don't use it. And that's
Yeah.
where I think coming from an operations background, my entire objective is how do we do this the right way to at least get growth and development to drive results? At the end of the day, that's what I'm passionate for, is for you to drive your results that you want to achieve, whether that be sales, profitability, associate engagement, just safety, physical and psychological. How do you do all of those things to be sure that you're profitable, right? So when I designed the roadmap for JCPenney, and I did a lot of this work with JCPenney, we first put together in 2000 and I'm trying to think, would have been 2000. Yeah, 2000. We designed the strategy. We took about 9 months. We benchmarked it to organizations that are like us, not like us, best in class. What are they doing? So we can identify what we're doing well. What are some things that we should be doing that we haven't been doing? Okay. So as I have to log back in to look at the spreadsheet, what we did was we threw everything out, started with a blank page, taking in all that benchmarking work. We then designed the strategy and it took us about 6 months to implement it. And so we've implemented it for the last 4 years. And here's what I've seen. People want right time, right now, bite-sized training. That's what they want. They want it when they need it, how they need it, and they want it to be effective. And when they get that, they come back for more. So what we did is we designed taking the path to growth, right? The 4 phases. And we said, if you're in the leading self bucket, knowing that these are the competencies and skills you need to have, what does a training look like, right? So what classes, what content can we design and can we deliver? And how do we deliver that? Not just at a one-time event, but throughout the year. And so when you look at leading self, we call that the fundamentals track. So going back to what you said, Edgar, it's all about the fundamentals at this stage, right? So we identified the business fundamental skills you need to have, like pricing and profitability, financials, time management, marketing and branding, managing work-life balance, right? You're going to need to get really good at that the next phase, but let's start now. Why wait? Goal setting, right? Those are just some of the things from a business perspective. When you looked at leadership skills that you might need to have at this stage, things like growth mindset. How do I take this technical side of the job and realize that I need to adopt a growth mindset to get better in things that I'm just not great at, or even grow my business differently? Basic principles of leadership, decision making. I think one of my favorites, and the boot camp got to experience this one firsthand, driving results through accountability. As a solo entrepreneur, what steps do I need to take to be more accountable to my business? And that continues to grow even more and more as we get along the roadmap. Those are just a couple. Effective communication, there's so much more. And here's what's great about this roadmap. It's going to iterate based on the needs. I remember at the boot camp, we sat there, Edgar, and someone said, hey, I think you need this at the first phase. And I'm like, we can do that. You're absolutely right. Let's go at it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's iterative. So that is your fundamentals track. When you're an aspiring leader, you now go to what we call the accelerator track. Remember, you want to move forward. And so these are going to include business accelerator classes around operational efficiencies, managing workload. How do you avoid burnout? Navigating change will be one that we'll put in here. Scaling without losing service quality, route optimization and scheduling, just to name a few. There's more, but just want to make sure we cover just a couple of the highlights. And then some of the leadership skills you need to have here are managing your stress and well-being. So we have a class on that, believe it or not. Sounds like it's a fluff, but it's not. It's actually a game changer. Because I think all of us need to be focused on that. The art of delegation. You've got more, not just about accountability of self, but accountability. I look back at the year and say, well, I didn't hit that goal or that result I wanted. What more do I need to do? And then I think one of the most important classes in this accelerated track is the hiring advantage. How do I interview? How do I find the right talent? How do I keep the right talent? Any questions before I move on into the third track?
No.
It's a lot. I know it's a lot.
It's a lot of information, but it's just all great stuff.
Yeah. And then when you're in the essentials track, and keep in mind, you do not need to take the track, leading self first or fundamentals track. It's where you are. It meets you where you are right now. So if you're in an organization where you have a team, right, you can go straight to the essentials track, maybe do a U-turn, and go close some gaps if you have them, but you do not need to take all these classes. These are class offerings that are available to anybody wherever they need. And I can help you figure out what that is if you need to. So Business Essentials is really around everything from scaling your business with really effective SOPs. It's more about profitable growth and financials at that level. It's scaling marketing strategies. It's a lot of HR 101, legal compliance and considerations to take into place when you're leading people. How do I manage risk? How do I help other people set goals that are smart? And then we go into behavioral-based interviewing, hiring and retaining high-performing employees, coaching to develop and empower associates, and performance management 101, just to name a few. And I'm going to end here with the advantage track. And here's what I'm going to say about the advantage track. A lot of people who are just skilled in their area oftentimes don't think they need to be developed or trained, right? I see it a lot. They send their team to get training, and they don't always take the time to invest in themselves. Why this is critical here is oftentimes I'll be in a class and I might do a training on feedback for mid-level managers, first-time leaders. And I always hear, well, did my manager go to this class? Because they don't do any of these things. And these would be really good things they should do in my conversation.
And that happens all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
If I had a nickel jar right next to me. So here's what I'll say about this. It's never too late to take a U-turn, whatever track you're choosing, to go close a gap. Because, honestly, we didn't have training 10, 20 years ago around accountability. It just wasn't a focus.
Yeah.
Today it's a need, right? And so maybe prioritize that for you or even just your team. Here's a challenge I'll give to anybody with the advantage track. If you feel your team needs an accountability course, My challenge is that you attend that class with them. And I think that's what Zach does really, really well, is he doesn't go, oh, I already know this. I'm going to walk out of the room and leave my team here.
Mm-hmm.
You have to hear the questions in the room, the dialogue, you're learning yourself, but you're also tapping into what your team knows. So in the Advantage track, we have classes around advanced financial management, developing your brand, strategic planning, partnerships, the future of business innovations, succession planning. That's a huge one. Identifying talent, right? Where they are and building your future bench. And classes you might take in this area, emotional intelligence, the CEO mindset. How do I become a transformational leader, not a transactional leader?
Mm-hmm.
Building high-performing teams. Like, how do I take a team and make sure they're not just storming, right?
Uh-oh. Zach is probably jotting that one down. So you're probably going to get a call on that one.
Yeah, people often feel because their team's just getting along that
Uh-huh.
they're performing, but that's not the case. You only know if they're performing if the results are there. So if they're
Yeah.
not, how can you build a high-performing team
Mhm.
so that they're doing the job without you, right? When you walk away. Influence and persuasion comes here, speed of trust, and then certification classes. So, boy, that was a lot, Edgar.
No, it's,
I,
go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
yeah, I want to jump in because like you said, when it comes to like the Advantage track, and a lot of people at that stage, it's like, oh, I've learned, I've grown, I'm here. But also, there's a huge component of there has not been anything in my experience that you could find that's packaged up to where you could learn at this level. There wasn't anything like, hey, you want to lead an empire, like here's the training platform, here's the
Right.
program. It was a lot of like, you're left to just have to, it's hard to find. You have to source it. You have to piece together. And whether that's through some sort of audio book where, half of it pertains to what you're trying to do. And then you got to turn around and, spend a bunch of money for some Tony Robbins conference
Right.
and all this. And so this is a beautiful opportunity now to really empower people at that level and give them the information that's going to drive them to the next phase of their leadership.
Right. And how we do that will be a menu of offerings, right? So there might be a case where somebody reaches out to me and asks a question about a need they have, and it might just be a webinar.
Mhm.
In other cases, I'll say, well, it has to be in person for this particular result that we're looking for. This is what we're going to have to do. But I'm only recommending, and it's really your decision to say, yeah, we want to do that now and invest in it an hour later. But you're going to have a resource and a person who can help guide you there. It's a lot of information. So I'll just end by saying, what it does, the path forward and the roadmap really provides a clear, guided kind of strategy. And it really takes all that, minutia, and really says that we can give it to you where you are, when you need it, to get you to the next level that you need to be. But it's going to be in bite-sized pieces. So don't feel you have to do it all at once. In fact, it's better that you don't.
Yeah, it's a lot better that you don't. Because
Right.
if you try to do 5 of these tracks in a row, you're not going to be able to kind of, retain any of it. But
Right.
But I agree. The beauty of it was, sitting down, putting together this roadmap of here's these phases that pool pros go through, and here's the skill sets that you're going to need at each one of them. So go look at those and focus on those because you're at this level right now.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about, if you're in the fundamental stage and the foundational stage, you don't need to focus on, the empire stage at this stage yet, right?
Right.
Sharpen your saw with these other, and
Yep.
as you go through that roadmap,
Yep.
you'll be able to get, what it is that you want. And by the way, we, it took us a while to kind of put this all together and
Oh,
bring it all
It
together.
was. It was a journey.
And it was definitely a journey to kind of put our brains together. And then, between me, Zach, and John bouncing back, nope, don't put this here. Nope, we need this. Nope, we
Yep.
need that. Nope,
Yep.
no, we, no, but it was kind of neat to see this kind of come together all together. And we're excited because I think the first place that we're going to launch a lot of this is going to be at the Pool Nation Conference.
That's right.
And the Pool Nation Conference really is going to be focused on the business side of your business, right? And it's going to be kind of the only pool conference that's focused on the business side of your business. And that's where we want to bring this. We're going to be doing, 2 separate days. One day where it's all going to be financials.
Yeah.
The second day is really going to be driven home when we talk about the employee life cycle and start to get,
Yep.
kind of through those phases. So, like day one, we'll talk about turning pools into profits, right? How to build a business and just not just a route.
Right.
We'll talk about turning metrics into money, right? So what metrics are you supposed to follow within your business, and how do you turn that into money, and really what are your financials telling you? Then the next thing that we'll do is we'll talk about, knowing your costs so that you grow your profits. So as soon as you know those costs, you really can drive those profits. We will talk, and we'll have Sean come over and talk about financial planning and
He's
exit
great.
strategy.
Yeah,
He's
he's
phenomenal,
fantastic.
right?
Yeah.
But big picture, right? You
Right.
need to make it to the end of that roadmap. And then we also want to talk about, profit is not cash, right? And mastering that cash flow to stay in control all year long. And then day two, as we go into that, we really start to dive into, that talent life cycle, building skills for your business success.
Yeah.
We'll talk about developing high performing teams. What does it mean, and how do you build that high performing team? We'll do other ones on, cultivating collaboration,
fun.
right? That's
That's
going to be. And by the way, for those that are listening, these
Yeah.
are not going to be your average classes where it's a PowerPoint and that's it.
And a talker at the front of the
And
room.
a talker
No.
at the front of the room.
No.
Doreen is pulling out that Mary Poppins
That's
bag, and there's going to
right.
be some classes in here that I'm going to go sit and watch because
Zach,
it's
you're
going to
gonna
be
like this one.
Oh,
you and your team
yeah.
are gonna love this one.
this cultivating collaboration, and it's all around an entire exercise.
But
the
we're
whole
not telling
time.
secrets.
No, we're not
We're
telling
not-
secrets, and
nope.
we're not spilling any of the tea on that class.
No.
But it's
You got
Zach.
to show up to find out.
Zach, John, it's like nothing that we've seen so
No.
far yet. This is a whole different bag of tricks that's coming
Yeah,
out on that
yeah.
one. The other one will be, diving into time management strategies. I think that's an important one. I
Yeah.
think we all struggle with that, with that time management. And then we bring it all home with, driving results,
That's one of my
'cause
favorites.
at the end of the day, if you're not driving the results, then,
Yeah.
none of it is worth it.
And this one right here is if you remember, Zach, we had the target exercise in that one. And so
I will never forget that.
Yeah, it's memorable. It's sticky, right? And what I love about this is so many times this is exactly the class people say, "Oh, send my team to," and then I'll get the call from the exec. I need to take this with my entire leadership team. And I've got senior execs sitting in these classes saying, "Oh, I can give you 2 hours. I can cut 2 hours out in the class for you." And typically, I'll get a call back asking for an 8-hour session of working through it, the magic. I have to say, this is one of my favorites. It's one of my
It's a good
babies.
one.
Yeah.
So we're getting towards the end here, but I want to talk about one more thing. Doreen, can you talk about the executive edge and why we've created it?
Yeah, I can. I'm always trying to figure out how we can feed the masses, and that's hard to do. And so we actually are really excited about the Executive Edge. It's actually launched already on the Pool Nation homepage. So if you guys go to the homepage, you will find that we have the Executive Edge button that you can tap into. And we know that you'll come to a conference, you'll experience a learning and think, I can't wait a whole year to give this to my team. Like, how do I get this to my team? And so we created the Executive Edge. So number one, you can get to know me a little bit better, to understand what the offerings are, and also to be able to meet those different varying needs that you have. So let's just say you're a pool pro entrepreneur and you're solo and you've got a problem to solve. You could always call, anytime, Zach, John, Edgar, but now you have another resource, right, on the business side, that if you're dealing with a situation with an associate or an employee and you want some advice, then, you can certainly fill out a quick little intake form. Tell me what the problem is that you're trying to solve for. We can set up a quick 30-minute meeting and kind of see what tools and resources we have to help you tap into to solve that problem. If you have a small team and you want to bring driving results through accountability somehow to your team remotely, we can facilitate most classes virtually. Doesn't always have to be in person. So we'll sit down for 30 minutes and talk about what those needs might be. And I can, give you a menu of offerings that we can support you with. And then you decide whether or not you want to tap into that or not. But it's really an intake process, if you will, through that website to kind of help you guys with all the skills you need and all the trainings that we can offer, right? I think my one concern is I'm one person. So, Edgar's going to help me out with managing through like those intakes, right, Edgar? So when they come through, people will know better how to react to that. When I think about the executive edge, it really was designed for the learner in mind, or the leader who has a problem to solve. How do we get that information? Sometimes we'll have a survey that will come out and say, what is the classes you feel that are the most need for you? And that'll help us take that information in, the data that we need to make informed decisions for what we offer. But it's really there as a tool, just another resource if you guys need it for any point in time. Anything to add there, Edgar, that you're thinking of about Executive Edge and why we created it?
No, I think it was really, when we looked at all the different, when we looked at the different phases that we
Right.
look at, right? Because we kind of keep going back to our roadmap was really, is there anybody that's going to be left out, or is there going to be a segment that we can't fit within, whether it's a boot camp or a
Right.
conference or, any of that. And so that was really the goal behind it. And a lot of it was also kind of conversation with Zach, right, with his needs. And this is one of the things that we do all the time. We always look at, John, what would be your needs? Edgar, what would be yours? Zach, what would be yours? And to a lot of the conversation with Zach was like, man, I would need some kind of customized stuff where I
Right.
could do that doesn't fit into what it is that you're doing. And we're like, let's make sure that we filled that need right there for
Yeah.
everybody.
It was a way for us, every time I come out of training classes, people want one more, training class. It was a way for us to be able to take that information and then intake it, if you will, have a consulting, try to talk through the problem and give the right solution options, right? And just be able to be another place that no matter what phase you're in, whether you're in the solo entrepreneur or if you're in the empire phase, what can we do to maybe perhaps lead you, guide you, or support you? So I'm excited about that because I think that's the one thing that stopped us from giving training to the masses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we have been talking for about an hour and a half
That was
straight.
fast.
We haven't even
We need to
taken
do a sponsor.
We
Yeah.
haven't taken our word from our sponsors yet. And here's what we're gonna do. So obviously we're doing this one stream live. So Spider, we don't have to roll the sponsor ads. What we'll do is we'll just kind of edit it into the podcast format. So this would be the moment to put those in, right?
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, I
So,
think so.
So anyways, coming back, Zach, John, we're pretty much out of time. So let me get some final thoughts from you guys.
Yeah, no, I'll go. And this stuff is so exciting and fun for me. And, Edgar alluded to it earlier, but we've gotten to travel and meet a lot of different people that are in all different phases of their business journey. And we learn a lot from them. And we learn a lot about some of the educational things that would greatly contribute to helping them succeed in growing their business. And like Doreen said, there is a huge need for it. So this is a big moment for us and a big step in order for us to be able to put fuel on the fire and really bring some of this very important, high quality business education to Pool Pros. And this is the stuff that, and I talk to my team about it a lot. It's like we can learn the chemistry, we can learn the repairs, we can learn the technical things, which are very important. But these skills are the skills that for business owners, it allows you to effectively work on your business or not just in it. But these are the skills that you can take into all areas of your life. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, and these translate. They translate into your relationships, your marriage, your parenting. They translate into other businesses, other industries. It really boils down to people. And if you can effectively work with people and empower people, then I think that is a really strong thing. So Doreen, thank you for coming on today. This is, again, an exciting day for us. I know, like I mentioned earlier, Edgar has been just dying to talk about this and put
Yeah.
this out there. And so today we finally got to spill the tea.
That's right. And if I can just say, I'm incredibly honored to be part of the next chapter of Pool Nation. Honestly, I see the vision. I know there's possibility. I know we can, definitely close that gap, and I can't wait to take the ride. So thank you for, inviting me.
Absolutely. John, by the way, just to let you know, so see how John is quiet.
I was going to
And
say,
until I go, John, final thoughts. He won't speak. Like he'll stay completely quiet and not Mr. Flawless. And then he likes it. Mr. Flawless, final thoughts.
Well, again, I mean, we talk about humans, right? Humans are creatures of habit, and I shall. And as you get older, you get more stubborn.
And he's been very vocal about it, going, just to let you know, Edgar, I am not going to talk until you do that.
I love it.
Yeah. No, look, a lot of information was laid out today, right? And I think anybody listening right now, or those of you that are going to be the many of you that are going to be listening after when we post this, hopefully you guys are going to be equally as excited. I truly believe you are. To touch on what Zach was saying, he pretty much wrapped it up just perfectly and summed it up perfectly. So I want to say ditto to what Zach was saying and what he was talking about. This is this is a creation from not just us thinking, hey, this is what we should do, or let's just throw this on the wall and see if it works and sticks. We're if you guys haven't seen us or don't know us well enough, one thing you will find out is that we're very methodical and everything we do has a purpose in it. Otherwise, it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
This is from what the feedback and everything that we've seen from the thousands of people that we've spoken to over the years, because we genuinely want to understand what they need and how we can help. Otherwise, why are we doing it, right? So this has been a long in the workings. And we're super stoked that we were able to push this up a little bit sooner than expected, and that we're going to be able to deliver it this year for you guys. Not Zach, you made a point earlier. All this information isn't new, right? This is stuff where you can kind of go out and you can figure it out or find out, but you always in the back of your head either don't really know if that's the correct information or if that's the right stuff you should be looking at, especially when it comes down to a subject you lack knowledge in or you're not very comfortable with, right? And our goal is always to be a hub or to create and to gather quality information and training and education in one spot so that you can feel comfortable knowing that you're being informed correctly and that we offer you the tools and the education so that you can be the best at what you do. But a twist to it, and what's something that isn't available is that, yeah, all this information about leadership and HR and about business financials and goals and stuff are available for the masses, but there's never been anything that has been specifically tailored for the pool industry, right? And I think that's where it really makes a difference, because if this is a child of all our brains, right? And experiences in the industry, so that it really echoes and correlates with what you're doing and what your day-to-day life is, so that you're not just hearing about something and not truly understanding how it applies to your position or to what you're doing right now. And I think that's where I'm the most excited about the Executive Edge. And I think of it kind of it's like a hotline or like a lifeline,
Right.
or,
Yep.
imagine having somebody as talented as Doreen with their experience to be able to be able to help you out with your company, no matter whether you're a one person show or you're running, 100 trucks out there. It doesn't really matter, but to know that you have that option or that ability to be able to reach out to somebody without bringing them on full time or having them full time and going through the vetting or being able to find somebody with their talents and qualities. Um, this is gonna be next level type of stuff that anybody who takes advantage of it will set themselves up to be much more successful in the coming years. So this is just, like I always say, the tip of the iceberg. We've talked about a lot, but those of you that are going to be in Vegas when we are going to be doing the conference, this is your time to as soon as registration opens up, you better get on top of it. If you're slightly interested in anything we spoke about, get on our website right now and start. The Executive Edge is already there. Get on the website and start doing some inquiries and figuring out if this program can help you. But we're looking forward to a very prosperous 2025 for all of us. Doreen, thank you for taking the time to come out and do the podcast with us. This has
Yeah.
been an amazing and very informative podcast, and it's just bonkers and I kind of feel a little better about this because, and this is selfishness here. I usually we go through all the things that we're going to be doing and all the things we're going to be talking about, and I get a little bit of an anxiety because I'm like, damn, how are we going to figure all this out, dude? And, but this time
He's
I'm
throwing
like,
me under the
"Ooh."
bus. Are you throwing me under
And,
the bus,
I'm
bro?
like, you know what? I'm like, this is great. Yeah.
So he's
What a
just saying,
blessing.
Yeah.
Right?
he just
I heard it.
right?
I
He
heard it.
just literally said,
Yeah.
Edgar, when you were trying to do this, I was in fear. Now that
Right.
she's here,
I was
I
just
can
like-
sleep at night. So
Dude, look,
Thanks,
I'm
John.
a go-getter, but I'm a realist, right?
Right.
And sometimes, we try to figure things out, and we do.
what do you mean?
can,
We try
but-
to figure. We figured it all out, baby.
We did.
That's
we
what I'm
did.
talking
No,
about.
did.
We
No,
figured
I'm
it all
saying
out.
Look, the one thing
Listen,
that
it
we don't
impresses
have
me.
enough of is time, right? And
Right.
when you think you don't have enough time to do all these things, is my thing. We figure it out. We're like, okay, I can do this, do that, whatever, so that we can create enough time so that we can put the required amount of effort into something. Because don't waste my time, don't waste your time, don't waste any of our times, right?
Right.
If we're gonna do this, we need to put in 100%. That's what I mean when I said that. But now, having Doreen, we have that much.
There he
more
goes
time.
again.
I heard it. I
You know what
heard
I
it.
mean?
I heard it. I think what it all comes down to is he didn't have to do the heavy lifting today, right? So he was like,
Yeah.
Doreen did all the work today. I got to sit back,
Doreen, this is
got to have my
awesome.
coffee.
Yeah,
That's what he's
for
really
real.
saying.
This is great. I'm looking forward to it. This is awesome. And this is just the beginning. So
It's just the beginning of it,
It
baby.
is.
Hey, we're really, really excited that you're on. We're really going to take this thing to the entire next level. I do want to apologize to all the people that were online that we kind of forgot about over here, just really quick, because I know we
Yeah.
got to go. But Barry Blue Pools, let's see here, Schaefer Pools and Sonata. Big shout out to Making Waves, Lily Pad Pool Services, Cali Pools, Alexa,
Wow.
Nicole. Big shout out, Nellos. Big shout out to you out there. Clear Pool Partners. Shout out, Mr. Marcano. Hello. 68 Mustang CNC Design. What's going on? Big shout out. Michael Kraus said, I still have the cards from your class. Todd and I really enjoyed that class at the boot camp in
Oh,
Dallas.
I love that.
Mark, shout out to you. Mr. David Jones, what's going on? Lacey, big shout out. Paradise Pool Pros, the Valley Pool Busters, Mr.
Wow.
Brian Croissant, Justin, Revved Up Pools, Beto's Pool Service, Brian Sadler, what's going on? Penn Valley Pools, Lori, shout out to you out there. El Compa, what's going on in Canyon Pools? Sorry about that, everybody. I hope that everybody has a great weekend. Catch me and John next Wednesday on the Instagram Live. We'll see you then. Take us home, Spider.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or PoolNationPodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at Pool.Nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to PoolInvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. PoolmanUniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at PoolmanUniversity.com.